Welcome to another edition of the Mael Time podcast. Today we have an emergency episode. I'm joined with Yoni Kalin, who actually was present last night at the horrific murder in Washington, D.C., in which Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram, two embassy staffers, were murdered. Yoni, first of all, I'm sorry that you had to experience this. You came face to face with the murderer. How are you holding up this morning?
I'm doing okay. I'm really just thinking about the victims and their families right now. It's a senseless horror, and I think all of us are kind of running on fumes right now. I'm trying to talk to as many people as I can, share this story. I think the level of hate that we, the Jewish people, have received is it's enough, and we need to speak out, and we need to share our stories because this is unacceptable, and we shouldn't have to face this type of violence and this type of hatred. And I just want to say the irony of all of this is this event was about humanitarian aid to Gaza. It was about Israelis and Palestinians, a multi faith alliance of Muslims, Christians, and Jews working together to find logistical solutions to get aid to actual Gazan civilians and not Hamas. So this was an opportunity for us to gather and speak about humanity and tikkun olam and actually coming up with solutions. And then you have somebody that comes in and kills people, and he thinks that this is going to free Palestine. I mean, it's insane. It's moronic, and the level of ignorance and hatred that exists is terrifying and something I've never seen in my 31 years up until recently. I'm sure you feel the same way as a Jew.
Yes, so I want to get to the substance of the conference. First, I actually want to touch on just some of the facts because things were quite crazy
Yeah,
as things were emerging yesterday.
yeah,
So, what was this event? It was held by
sure. Yeah.
AJC.
So American Jewish Committee hosted the event. My wife helped organize. Uh, they brought in over 30 embassies from around the world, different diplomats, people from the State Department, and it was an off-the-record conversation about the Multi-Faith Alliance and Israel Aid working together and how their efforts have successfully shown that number one, Palestinians and Israelis can work together, and two, how successful they've been in delivering aid, not only to Yemen and Myanmar and countries around the world, but to Israel after October 7th and now to Gaza as well. So it was a discussion trying to educate young professionals and inform a lot of the community what efforts were being underway,
Was
and
this
how they were
event
working together.
highly publicized, or since it was off
No,
the record, it was
no,
very
it was
quiet?
completely off the record, private invites only. Communication was on Telegram. There was no way. I don't know how he would have gotten word of this event. The only kind of semblance of, or the only idea I may have is that the museum had security issues and security concerns. And unfortunately, another irony is they just received a grant to increase their security literally
What were the
23 hours
security
ago.
concerns? I just want to say, like, listen, I have my children. When my children go to day school, there's four security guards down here in
Yes.
Florida. When I go to synagogue, there are tons of security because that's the reality of Jewish life in America. What were the specific security concerns that were outlined at the museum?
My understanding was that there were previous security threats, previous protests, people that were aware that just because it's at a Jewish museum, that makes it a target. And to be fair, there were a number of security guards armed in the actual building. So
So when you went into the event, what was the security like?
we got patted down, we got scanned to make sure we didn't have any weapons on us. And the security guards did a great job at making sure everybody coming into the museum was safe. I think where things fell apart is when we heard 10, 15 gunshots outside, we thought, at least my understanding is, a lot of us thought that, oh, it had to do with maybe some neighborhood violence, or maybe something is going on with whether it's gang violence or just random shootings. It's something that just happens in DC.
So how
Nevertheless,
many people were at this event?
I'd say between at peak between 40 to 50.
So there's 40 to 50, and how many security guards were there outside when you were coming in?
They weren't outside; they were inside, and there were probably four or five security guards. I
Okay, and
can't. I'm not. I'm
presumably,
not
right,
100% sure, just from my
right,
memory.
and presumably there's video cameras and someone's monitoring video cameras outside because there was
Absolutely,
something
because
that was
yeah,
confusing to me just watching seeing some of the details. So they said that he was pacing. So at
yes.
what time did this event start? It started at
The
7.
event started at 6:30,
Okay,
and the gunshots were heard around 9:07, between 9:07 and 9:10, is my memory.
okay, and I've noticed at some Jewish events that things can get slightly lax towards the end, and that
Absolutely.
there's a big focus on security going into the event,
But
perhaps not
going
as much
out, there
going out.
wasn't.
Correct.
Yes.
So this event had wrapped up, or they were leaving early.
This event had wrapped up. I mean, there was some remaining schmoozing, some desserts. People were still talking and yabbing as they do. I think what terrifies me, I think Hashem was looking after me because I was going to leave around the same time. And I think Yaron and Sarah just unfortunately left at the wrong time. I wasn't aware of this man pacing. What I was aware of is as soon as the gunshots happened, some of the people that were leaving the event came back inside and he joined them. And I'm not sure if security checked him.
So these people actually had to go through a security checkpoint to get back in the building.
I don't believe so.
Okay, so they were just went back in. There was gunshots. You heard them inside in the lobby.
We heard the gunshots inside in the lobby. And then a few minutes later, he came in along with, I believe it was two or three, I think it was three other attendees that returned to the event. And at this point, the security guards, along with most of us, thought he was an innocent bystander. I mean, this man looked completely shocked. His face was pale. He was white, like pale white. Obviously, when you murder two people, you're going to clearly have issues with your conscience. And unbeknownst to all of us, people were concerned. They thought he was an innocent bystander. They brought him water. They were checking in on him.
So you were just schmoozing with this guy.
I wasn't schmoozing with the guy. He wasn't speaking to anybody. He was just kind of sitting on the bench, looking around, kind of
What
not
I what
really
I, what I,
knowing
what I,
what.
what I
Yeah,
meant to ask was that he was actually amongst everyone,
correct,
just
correct.
hanging out.
I wouldn't say he was hanging out. I would say he was kind of standing around. He was drinking water. He looked nervous. I mean, he did feel out of place.
But
And
listen, it's an
it's
unspeakable
yeah,
tragedy. It's
yeah.
also an unfathomable miracle that this murderer is
Didn't
sitting
bring a
there
gun
with you
inside.
guys and didn't try to kill someone inside.
I mean, he had a backpack on him. Thank God he wasn't strapped with something else. The thing that's so sickening to me is as soon as the cops showed up because they heard the gunshots, he immediately turned himself in and said, "I did this. I did this for Palestine." Or sorry, I did this for Gaza. Then he started his Free Palestine chant, and as
And
of
did I
course you
see that
know,
you tried to hand his kafia back to him?
yeah, so in a moment of, after speaking about humanity and bridge building, I said, okay, this is just another protester. I'm going to show humanity and I'm going to give it back to him, which in retrospect was a very stupid thing because people are thinking, I saw some posts, Jewish breaking news saying like, oh, a potential accomplice and crazy things like that. No, I'm not an accomplice. No, I have nothing to do with this guy. And I was trying to, I wouldn't call it a mitzvah, but I was trying to be humane
You were
in that
basically trying to
moment.
show that you have this crazy, insane person screaming. We've all been in
Correct.
events where you have crazy, insane people screaming, and you're going
Correct.
to be a
And
polite person and hand him his things, which is actually kind of humorous.
correct. And I didn't know he was a killer at the time. If he was a killer, I probably would have tackled him or done something else. But a lot of us didn't really piece together the information until they started going through the security footage. And I had a friend actually, as she was looking at the security footage, unfortunately, she found the video. And I mean, this guy in cold blood assassinated two people, one of which he shot more than five times. I mean, it was boom, 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 and she was already on the ground. I mean,
Were
it's
there other people that were injured that were outside?
my understanding is there were two. So it's Yaron and Sarah. At first we thought it was three. Then we did have somebody in the building that said call 911, call 911. He dislocated his shoulder. He was in a state of panic, and he said he saw two people lying outside, not breathing. And at this point, we were kind of all in a bit of a frenzy. And I wouldn't say it was a panic where people were running around going crazy, but the museum started. security protocols. They closed all the blinds. They pushed us away from all the doors. They tried to
Wait, but they
explain that,
pushed you, but they pushed you away from the doors and closed the blinds when the murderer was standing inside.
yeah, I mean, I just want to preface by saying, the staff at the Jewish Capitol Museum and the security guards, I believe, were doing their best. And given the circumstances, I'm not trying to put
No,
them
no,
down in
I'm
any
not. Listen,
way.
listen, listen,
Yeah,
listen,
yeah,
listen.
yeah, yeah.
It's an absolutely insane situation. I
Yeah, yeah.
do, and I'm gonna withhold any judgment on how people acted in that moment, in the sense that I don't. I, you're a security guard. You're preparing for incidents to happen, but you're not. What you, what's like the Mike Tyson quote? Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. I'm just
Correct.
trying to piece together factual things. So this
Correct.
whole
Yes. So
security
the security and
the
the
security thing
environment.
happens.
Yeah.
You're saying that you have to take precautions, and the doors are closing, everything, and the murderer is inside.
Correct. Here we are thinking that it's an outdoor shooter, and the shooter, God forbid, is inside with all of us. And thank God he didn't have his weapon. He left it outside.
What is that like now in retrospect? I mean, it's only been a few hours, but
Well,
how are you internalizing that you were actually standing next to a murderer?
to be honest, I'm kind of pumped full of adrenaline. I slept an hour and a half last night, and I've been recounting the story over and over and over again because it's important to share. The emotions are there. I just have a lot of energy blocking them out because I think once I lose it, I will break down. And I'm doing my best to continue to tell this story, which I think is just people need to hear it. They need to understand what radicalism looks like. They need to understand that these actions don't help Palestine. These actions don't help Gaza. If anything, they're going to create more policies that are going to hurt innocent people. So it's really really a horrific thing. Um,
And
thinking about
I'm assuming
yeah.
that the majority of the people that are attending said conference or said event are not radical right wing
No, no, they're
lunatics,
people
as they're going to call it.
from
Yeah.
embassies all over the world, from State Department officials, and one of them is a representative from the Multi-Faith Alliance. She's a Christian who's working with Muslims and Jews to bring humanitarian aid to war-torn areas. I mean, they work to bring millions of dollars of aid to Syria. They've worked through Myanmar and other countries, and now they're doing actually a very good job at bringing aid successfully into Gaza, unlike the UN and some other organizations, because their aid trucks don't get intercepted by Hamas. Their aid trucks get directly to people that they verify, civilians that need the aid, and that gets distributed. So it's a twisted, sick reality where here we are talking about humanitarian support. We're talking about people that have suffered, but how we can support um, in the media it's always this side that side, but here it's like how can we be humans and come together and actually work together for a solution. And somebody has delusional ideas ends up murdering people that are part of that solution, murdering people that would contribute to that aid getting to people that need it. So it's beyond insane. And I want people to understand that violence and terrorism is not the answer. You are welcome to protest for Palestine. You are welcome to exercise your First Amendment rights. That is okay, but violence is not okay by any means. And I don't know how this guy got radicalized to the extent that he was, but he's a Latino. He's not Arab. He's not Palestinian. He doesn't have family that's suffering. So the way this from October 7th to now, the way this war has radicalized people is beyond me. And that's not to say I excuse if it was an Arab, but it wasn't an Arab. And either way, I don't need to get into the nitty gritty. This man has no connection to the issue, and he decides to murder two people over it. It's crazy.
And he didn't say anything when he was there with you guys. He just seemed nervous or shell shocked. How long did he
Yeah,
stand next to
so
you?
he's I was around him for like 5 minutes. I mean, the video timestamp was 9:16 when he started to get pulled out. Um, I just remember him, and what basically one of my friends was talking to him, and he's like, "Oh, what museum is this?" And she's like, "Oh, it's a Jewish museum." And he's like, "Do you think that's why somebody shot, somebody did the shots?" And she's like, "I don't think so. I don't think that's related." And then as soon as the cops walked in, he walks right up to them. He said, "Sir, I'm unarmed. I did this for Gaza, free Palestine." And then he starts going, "Free, free Palestine." And he just like
So he sounds like a
white.
Columbia student the second that the
eh,
cops show up, basically.
he's a violent radical. I don't want to necessarily compare him to
Well, I'm just
some.
saying
I
I'm
mean,
saying the protesters. That's what I'm saying.
yes, he sounds like your
He sounds
average.
like a
He sounds like a
ridiculous
typical
protester, right?
He sounds like a
Right,
typical
right.
protester that you would encounter, and I've encountered at every Jewish event I've ever been to. It's one thing to encounter protests and another to realize that they're murderers.
Did you know Yaron and Sarah personally?
I didn't. I've received a number of direct messages from friends that did. I have a lot of mutual friends with them. As you know, the Jewish community, it's 1 degree of separation between all of us. And I'm heartbroken. I did see him around the event. I did see her around the event. I didn't speak with them directly, but the world, every life that's lost is the end of the world for that family. So I can't begin to think about what they're going through right now. And I'm
As
just,
Ambassador Leiter said, Yorona just picked up an engagement ring. They're
I
planning
know.
on getting engaged next week. Unspeakable, and it's yeah. There are really no words.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are really no words. There's murdering innocent people is not
I'm
acceptable.
I'm I'm
Yeah.
thankful the administration is taking this very seriously. Pam Bondi was on the scene within hours. State officials, Marco Rubio, Donald Trump, Christina, all posted, sent thoughts and prayers, and I might not agree with everything the administration is doing, but I do feel a sense of strength and comfort that they care about this issue, and that I hope they're going to look out for us because we need help. Not we need help, but this is a serious issue, and we are severely outnumbered in this issue.
And before we wrap here, I just want to just from a security perspective, what in the conversations you're having with people that similarly survived this incident and uh, were involved, what would you say are the biggest takeaways for synagogues and events in terms of what could be done in a better way to ensure that this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, number one, shooter protocols. So if and when there is a shooter outside or inside, I mean, outside, what are the protocols of letting people back in? So making sure the security guards, and I maybe my memory is failing me. I don't remember seeing them pat them down and check them. Um, but if they did, then that would be the protocol. But I do think event security needs to be tighter at the end and not just at the beginning. And like you said, things lax up towards the end. People are coming in, they're going out, they're schmoozing, it's later in the night. Um, the security was great when we walked in. I just think that we need to be cautious and we need to be cognizant. And there should have been a cop car parked outside the museum. My synagogue always has one or two cop cars parked outside, and it's horrible that we live in a world where that's necessary. But at this point, with the vile fake news that gets posted daily, that often gets retracted, but people still believe, like the 14,000 babies claim, which they use the picture of a Yemeni child. I mean, come on, you're purposely pouring gasoline and building a bonfire of hate and animosity. So right now, yeah, we need security measures. We need better security, and I hope we have more information about how he found out about this
Yeah,
event,
and of course
because
this happened about 12 hours ago. So there's a
we
lot
yeah,
more
there's
that's
a
going to
lot we
come
still
out.
don't know.
And I'll just say, and to echo your point, regardless of whether or not something's true, there are millions of people that think that Israel was starving 14,000 babies, that the IDF hunts Palestinian children as a hobby, that they are intentionally sniping babies and women in the head, and the Jewish community, Israel, has to take that seriously, that there are people that see this stuff and actually believe it, no matter if it's a psychotic podcaster
Yeah,
in the UK or a psychotic
Theo
podcaster.
Vaughn or any of
Right.
these. Yeah,
So there are people that genuinely think this is happening. And that's very different than dealing with trying to combat misinformation on the ground, but you have to have a security apparatus that understands that there are people that legitimately think that's happening.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, and this is part of my criticism, and I'm going to stay out of politics, but when people say, oh, if we just end the war, then we're going to resume. No, the reality right now for the, I would say, distant future is just you have to take seriously that people think that legitimately happened. Obviously, that stuff did not happen, but you have to work under the assumption that there are people that think that's happening. And it's a very scary reality, but we have to accept that as reality instead of trying to ignore it or
Sure.
downplay it.
As much as we don't want to accept it. And I want to make sure to anybody that's listening, please stay mourner Scottish for these victims and their families. It's really just horrific what happened to them, and I hope the community can rally behind them, because losing one life is, let alone losing two, is just, I don't have the words.
Yoni, I appreciate you taking the time here. Please stay strong. And
Thank you.
if there's any additional information or anything along those lines that comes to light, please send it our way, and we'll, we're here to try to spread that message and
Thank you, Daniel.
whatever we can do. So I appreciate it. Stay strong.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks.